Welcome to Mormon Book Reviews, where an evangelical encounters the restoration. I'm your host, Stephen Peinecker, and I have a very good friend who's up in Nauvoo, Illinois. And I was wearing my Joseph Smith for President t-shirt, which I bought there at the Red Brick store a couple years ago. But then I had to wear this shirt because my homie sent me this. And thank you, Brian Stutzman, my friend who's been to my house. And we've spent a lot of time with each other. Welcome back onto the program today, sir.
Steve, it's good to be with you. And hello from Nauvoo, Illinois. I know a lot of your listeners and viewers have been up here. There's a special feeling in Nauvoo, the spirit of the restoration, for sure. The saints were here from 1839 to 1846. And there's a lot of historical sites here. I joke with people that there wasn't enough historical sites in Nauvoo. I had to come out and create my own.
So let's talk about that. So this is what's so cool, folks. Now, and of course, now a lot of things have changed in the 2 years that I've been to Nauvoo. First of all, you've opened up a new place, but also the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints acquired quite a few new properties up there from the Community of Christ, of course, along with the Kirtland Temple sale. So it's probably time to revisit Nauvoo, and I hope to get out there sooner than later. And tell us, my friend, for another reason, for those of you who have already been to Nauvoo, now you've got another reason to go to. Tell them about what you've got working going there.
So me and my wife bought a building here in November, and we opened we call it a Nauvoo's or Martydom Stories historical site, where we tell the story more of the martyrdom, the tensions that lead up to it, and especially the trial afterwards. Tell the story of 18-year-old Eliza Graham, the LDS, the Mormon waitress that served the mob the night of the martyrdom and testified against them the next year in the trial. Most people that come to Nauvoo, most people don't realize that there was a trial for those accused of leading the charge to murder Joseph Smith. And so it was 10 years ago right now that I took my number 3 son on a church history trip, and we left Carthage a little earlier than anticipated. We had some extra time, and we were flying out of St. Louis, and I saw this little sign that says Warsaw, which is just out by the Hamilton Bridge to go to Keokuk, and we drove down there 4 or 5 miles south and really was fascinated with this little town called Warsaw, Illinois. And I believe you have a copy there in your workshop. It's green. I'm not sure where it is. The history of Warsaw. I spent 4 years writing the first and only history of Warsaw, Illinois. It was a town where the mob came from that killed Joseph and Hiram, but it was also home to Eliza Graham, the waitress that served the mob, and some other things. And my book covers a lot more than just that time period before and after that time period of the Mormons before and after. And so we thought about doing this in Warsaw, but in reality, it would be really, really tough to get tourists down here. And so we spent some time looking at properties, and this one kind of came to us. We bought it in November of last year, needed a tremendous amount of remodeling on the main floor where the museum is, and upstairs where we live while we're here.
Okay, so now this is what's so interesting is that you're kind of right now, it's a soft opening. You did not anticipate to actually have the place open this early, but you're able to get a lot of stuff done. So right now, as summer is winding down, folks, the museum is still available. And I want to ask you, Brian, like, how does this work? Because you travel in and out of town. Do you have people staff to work there during the week, or do you guys just
It's me while we're here.
Uh-huh.
There might be a possibility that we might be staffed later on. It's a no charge historical site. There's a Nauvoo Wheel Museum down the street that's pretty cool. A lot of artifacts. And then toward the temple, we're in the same block as a fudge shop. Your viewers who have been here know where the fudge shop is, and the Emporium. We're a block from the temple. Across the street, a noted historian, Joseph Johnston, has a tomb of Joseph across the street and down. He's got some awesome artifacts. I would say we complement what we do here with these other places, and we complement what they do down in the flats, and we complement or augment, maybe is a better word, what they do at Carthage, because they've got hundreds and hundreds of people in Carthage, and everybody wants to spend time in the jail, so they kind of tell 4 or 5 years of history in about 15 minutes. Because everybody wants in. And so they really don't have time to get to the trial. They don't have time to get to some of these other stories here. So if it's okay, yeah, we're here for a little bit. We're going to open in June of next year.
Okay.
If anybody watching has family still here, the pageant just ended Saturday. Of a phenomenal pageant, phenomenal turnout. And we're still here for a little while more. Have them come by. We have a nice sign out front that says Martydom Stories. We're story driven as opposed to artifact driven. In fact, we have the opportunity to get a bunch of artifacts. And I talked to a couple of people that came through today and described the artifacts that we can purchase that's been offered to us. And they said it wouldn't change what you're doing here. If you had some things, don't change the stories, what we tell here. You can't. It's difficult to. Some of them are well researched and hard to. They just don't show up. Some people don't know. So we're gonna keep it the way it is right now. But we're right here. We talked right before we started. The church has bought the Nauvoo house, the Nauvoo mansion, the homestead, the reconstructed red brick store, a couple other properties. And we call it the south end of the flats. They're doing a tremendous job. And Steve, there's some dissenters out there that don't understand that the temple endowment was given in the red brick store. And so you're able to go there to that spot and see that. And they talk about that in 18, and then the plural marriage in the homestead property. You can go right to the room where Joseph introduced in 1843 the concept of plural marriage to, in Doctrine and Covenants 132, and they tell about it. We had a tremendous tour guide that told the date, and section 132 was given here. And we know, of course, there's several contemporary records that Doctrine and Covenants 132 was given to the High Council in the summer of 1843. It's not, it's well proven in that narrative. So the other thing is the other false narrative, I think I would call it false narrative out there, was there's this wild speculative theory that somehow Joseph Smith was killed by John Taylor or Willard Richards, and that's utterly false, and it doesn't make any sense, because Joseph Smith fell from the window at the Carthage jail, very much alive, yelling, "Oh Lord, my God." He fell to the ground, looked up at those people in the mob, and they lined him up against the well. And Colonel Levi Williams and 4 men, firing squad, shot Joseph Smith dead. So he wasn't killed up in the bedroom. He was killed on the ground. The court case in 1845 was called the People versus Colonel Levi Williams, because he was the one responsible for the murder of Joseph Smith. So those are 3 of the half-truths and false narratives out there that we try to tackle here. Can I give you a quick tour?
Yeah. So Brian, why don't you just show us around a little bit here of the new Martyrdom Museum. You're walking around. Oh, it looks like a nice day out there.
So let me tell you, it's a beautiful day in Nauvoo. A lot of people who've been here know this hotel across the street, the Hotel Nauvoo. They have a buffet. And so that's a point of reference, a buffet on Friday and Saturday nights. It's really kind of famous among people who come here. Your viewers that have been here will know it. Just down the street here, the Red Front store is a popular place for food and e-born books. And then this way, just on the other side of these buildings, is the Nauvoo Temple. Of course, it was dedicated in 2002. And then our sign up here. And
Martydom
so
Stories.
still working on a window sticker.
Okay.
And as you come in, um, we have a few artifacts here. I'm not. Somebody's got to come here to see them. But
Mm-hmm.
we tell about the history of this area first. A lot of glacier activity and geodes abound.
Okay.
And this area had more Indian artifacts than almost any other area in the country. And a lot of people believe that the Book of Mormon occurred here. There's evidence that there was a whole bunch of activity that way before the saints got here. We talk about the $500 miracle. Joseph Smith had a miraculous experience buying some land here, and a little bit about Isaac Galen. Talked about the members coming here. Oh, this is brilliant. The Nauvoo Expositor, which
Okay.
revealed in June 7th, 1844,
Mm-hmm.
what Joseph had revealed about plural marriage in 1843. The Nauvoo Expositor was in a building that was directly through this wall.
Hmm.
We're immediately next door. The building we're in was built in 1913. There was a building here earlier, right? And there was a building earlier next door. The building next door right now was built, I think, in 1910. This was built in 1913, but the Expositor newspaper was immediately next door.
Oh
We
wow, I
talked
didn't
about,
know that. Wow, interesting.
and so we felt lucky. And guess what happened? The marshal came and threw the type into the street, the press and the type, right? They
Mm-hmm.
pied the type, it was called, after 3 days of meeting and discovering that they felt like they were within the law to order that. And that's an interesting story because the freedom of the press didn't apply to cities and states until 1931. There's a Supreme Court decision called Neer versus Minnesota. And so the city council in Nauvoo could destroy the press. And because it was libel is never protected under freedom of the press. And so the reason I'm telling you this is that we hope to one day be able to dig up out in front here and hopefully find some type in the dirt underneath the street. That would be a collector's item. I'm not sure if that would buy us anything, but just a really cool artifact.
Yeah, that
So it's
reminds me. A
immediately.
couple years ago, I got to go on the archaeological dig with Paul DeBarth, where they were digging up where the Book of Mormon was
Oh, yeah.
printed, and they found some type there as well in the thing. So there's a good chance you could find some. You never know.
One of the cool things here was Joseph Smith, of course, ran for president. Today's, we're in a presidential year right now. One of his platforms items, one of the key points of his platform was that they wanted to have the federal government buy the freedom of slaves. See, back in 1844, there was some tensions, especially in Missouri, because Missouri liked slaves and most of the they were, against slavery. And Joseph Smith said, "Hey, the border of the country, Steve, was right down the street here on the Mississippi. Iowa was a territory,
Mhm.
and the idea was to sell land, right, and then take that money and buy the slaves to help end slavery." That was revolutionary at the time in 1844. Of course, Joseph Smith, as I mentioned, was the first presidential candidate ever assassinated. And so we talked a little bit about Thomas Sharp and the Warsaw Signal. Again, I wrote the history of the Expositor. We come over here and we talk about the attack on the jail and the accounts where Joseph was actually murdered outside. Littlefield wrote a 1882 book called Lyman Littlefield called The Martyrs, and he has a lot of accounts that way. And even if you read the Saints, it kind of leaves that door open. He says Joseph died outside. Willard came to the window, looked out, and Joseph was dead outside. But it didn't say that there was not a mob. We can get into it a little bit. There's accounts that there was a firing squad there. The Saints does not contradict that at all. The Saints just kind of omits that little part. We know that a waitress named Eliza Graham served the mob, testified against it. Now, here's something really interesting, Steve. we have a poster here that talks about the bodies being exhumed. Joseph and Hiram, of course, were buried in the corner of the mansion house. Emma had them moved. There's a report of up to 5 locations. It's documented well that there was actually 3. They moved Joseph and Hiram's body kind of over by the homestead by what's called the Bee House. Mm-hmm. And then when they built the Keokuk Dam in 1913, Lake Cooper, and your people on your podcast that know Hancock County history, this will be old hat. Maybe there's a few people that don't know this area, but the Keokuk Dam was built in 1913, and it started a flood up this way with Lake Cooper backing up the Mississippi River, and the family of the Smiths were afraid that the bodies would wash away, so they had the bodies found, and quite miraculously, a lot of fasting and prayer, they reinterned the bodies where they are now. And then in the 1980s, forensic science kind of started looking at it. Shannon Tracy did 3D reconstruction from the pictures and determined that they had misidentified Hiram and Joseph. And if you go to the grave now, it says Emma, Joseph in the middle, and Hiram at the right side. If you look at it from let's see, you'd be looking north to south there. But Hiram is actually in the middle. Maybe you've heard that.
Oh yeah, no,
Joseph.
I've had both proponents on. I've had Shannon Tracy on. I've also had Curtis Weber on, who thinks the skulls weren't switched. So there's that's an ongoing disputation going on right now that's happening. But yeah,
I think you come down here. Thomas Sharp actually takes credit in the newspaper for the community having to take. I'll read this. We claim that the community in which we live in, which is Warsaw, is a law-abiding community, and they're talking about the martyrdom. Our citizens have regretted and still regret the necessity that existed for taking the law in this particular instance into their own hands, but it would have sooner or later have to be done. No one acquainted with the facts of the case could deny. That was July 10th, 1844. Thomas Sharp claims that his community took this murder of Joseph and Hiram into their own hands. Why would he do that if he hadn't done it? Why would you confess to the world that your community killed Joseph and Hiram Smith? Okay. We talked about the trial, the court testimonies, the defendants, and again, a big blog on the story of Eliza Graham, the waitress. I can't stress her enough. What a wonderful, wonderful, brave young lady. In fact, her descendants are having a family reunion at the Martydom Stories Museum in June of next year to honor Eliza Graham.
Yeah, no, and I've had you on my program and read your book talking about that. It's probably some really good work that you did there in your book, and it's really interesting to bring that story to life. So now, Brian, for those of you who are for people who are interested in going and visiting, you have a website, and will that also tell people the availability of when the place will be open and that kind of thing? And do you have any other social media spaces that they could go to visit as well?
It's martydomstories.com.
Okay, we're going to have links in the description for that. And then
martydomstories.com, and we're planning on being back here. We've got to get back to Rexburg for the fall semester. Me and my wife have been up there 4 years now. Yeah. But next summer, we should be released from our church responsibilities, and we'll be out here June, July, and August is what we're planning on. And people can email, but if they're in the area now or have family or friends, please come see us now. So, Steve, can I just end with this phenomenal prediction about Joseph?
Sure, yeah.
The top, when Joseph was murdered, people thought, thus ends Mormonism. It was in a couple newspapers, including the New York Weekly Herald, but the New York Tribune, a month after the martyrdom, said Joseph Smith has carved out for himself a title to a page in the history of his country. And then that's 1844, the prediction, he will get his own page in the history of his country. And on 13th of January, 2015, in the Smithsonian Magazine, Joseph Smith gets not only his own page, but a page and a half, the number one religious figure in the country. So the prediction is he will get his own page, and then later on, he does get his own page in the history of his country. How phenomenal is that? And we're happy to tell that story here.
Yeah,
It's no
and
charge.
yeah, no charge. And today is August 7th. I'm not sure when I'm going to be releasing this, but how long will you guys be there if they wanted to get out there yet this summer?
Um, it's still up a little up in the air. We've got to go to a wedding and come down. We'll come down and see you in Florida for a little while and get back to school in
Okay.
September. So
Oh,
they can just message us from the website
all
if they
right.
want to get here. Thank you, Steve. I hope I kind of gave everybody a preview. We do have some artifacts that we didn't show. We're more into stories than artifacts, but we have some, and we're getting some more people that we've talked to. And I said, well, we can get this and that and the other thing for a certain amount of money, and they said, well, it doesn't really change your narrative and your stories, save your money. Having some signatures of Thomas Sharp, for instance, doesn't change the fact that he was charged with the murder, and we tell that story. So
Yeah. So
if
it's very
somebody wants
interesting.
some
And
heavy,
so you're going to be hosting a reunion next year. Maybe you foresee maybe doing book signings there, special events. Is that kind of the vision you have for the
yeah,
place?
yeah, we don't, yeah, we can do book signings. Yeah, we absolutely we
You
can
know what we'll do,
accommodate.
Brian? What we'll do is next time I'm out in Nauvoo, we'll do a meetup. I'll advertise a meetup for anybody in Nauvoo who wants to come and meet Steve Peiniger of MBR. You know, who knows? We did a meetup a
That would
couple
be
years ago. We had
awesome.
a few people show up, so we could do something like that. Whatever I can do to help. I love
We can.
getting all these different groups out there. I love having people to get exposed to the history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and in particular the history of Joseph Smith, which resonates with so many different elements within the restoration. And so this is a place that all would be welcome to come and to check out. It's free of charge. And really, this is the soft opening here in August of this year. But next year, June, July, and August, looks like almost the entire summer, you'll be able to get out there, especially during pageant time. Are they doing a pageant next year, Brian?
As far as we know, it's mid-July through the first week of August.
Okay.
It's worth coming to, and it's a lot of fun. They don't charge anything for that, and yeah, I would love to host you in a meetup when you're out here. We're happy to see anybody that comes. We are so excited. I'm appreciative of my wife. We funded 97% of this project out of our own pocket. She's been a huge support. We feel blessed to do that. And it's just our own project. And, if somebody wants to tell a different story, I invite them to, there's 3 buildings on Mulholland for sale. If they don't really think that what I'm doing is scholarly enough or slanted in one direction or another, I invite them to come out with their own money, buy a building here, renovate it, and tell it their own way.
Tell their own story, and then I'll have them come on my program, and they can, and then we'll talk about their stuff too. That's what we do here at MBR. So,
Yeah,
Brian, I want
you're
to thank you so
definitely
much.
fair. You're
Well, I want to
definitely
thank you.
fair, and that's how I handle the critics. If they want to do something, let them do it
Yeah,
their
open
own
their own
way.
museum.
So,
Yeah, no,
and you're
that's fine.
definitely fair.
That's
But
fair.
that's our story. We believe we're extremely well researched, and people can come out and talk to us and read what we have here. And if there's something that they'd like say, well, it was really this way or that way, come talk to me. Come out here and see it. And I'm open. So thanks for your time,
Yeah,
Steve. What else?
thank you. Just real quick, are you accepting donations for your thing? Are you a 501(c)(3), or is it just a private thing for now?
It's a private thing on our website's a Venmo link.
Okay.
If somebody gives us $20, it just goes toward next month's AC bill. Or it's hot and muggy, just like in Florida.
Yep.
It's incredibly hot here, and muggy. You wouldn't think in Illinois, but it was a hot and muggy day when they went to Carthage on June 27th, and it's August and it's a hot muggy day.
Yep. Yep.
And
The
But
Midwest can be very hot and humid. I grew up not far from there. So, well, Brian, thank you so
yeah,
much for coming on the program
thank
today.
you.
We're going to have links and descriptions to everything that we talked about. We'll have you back again next summer for the main opening as well to advertise it. But we just thought we'd give you everybody a little taste here. So even if you're not able to get there this summer, you at least got to get a sense of what this is all about, and then you can plan for next summer's trip to Nauvoo to make sure you stop at the what is it called? A Martyrdom Stories Museum.
Martyrdom Stories. And not only do we have this, but the church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is building a new visitor center right across from the temple and north about a quarter block. It's right there. And I think it will be open by next summer. So there's a new visitor center, at least one museum, ours, and of course the properties like we talked about, the homestead and such, with and the Nauvoo house and the mansion house and the red brick store. There's a lot of reasons to come out here. In fact, the director of tourism came the other day. In fact, I was talking to her this morning. They found that the average tourist that come here from the West plans their trip, again, on average, in January, that come here in July. So it's not too early. This winter's not too early to start planning your trip out here. There's a lot to see and do.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. So nice little plug there for the tourism industry in Nauvoo, Illinois. And folks, hopefully I'll try to get out there that next summer myself. My health condition is getting better, and I'm hoping to start traveling again soon. So really excited about that. And then leave your comments. We'd love to hear what you think about this new venture of Brian's. It sounds very interesting. I'm looking forward to checking it out. Remember, the most important thing is this: all the voices of the restoration will be heard here on Mormon Book Reviews.